We have another great question coming into the Notion classroom. This one is about the broker in charge exception that you'll notice in the comment section on page 16. Comment section, page 16, it says exception to BIC requirement for certain firms. So usually if you establish a firm, if you set up a firm, you have to assign a broker in charge. Remember, you have to have a broker in charge over the other agents to make sure they do things right, especially the provisionals, but also the non-provisionals. So this is a way to avoid that. How can you avoid assigning a broker in charge? It's for a situation where, let's say, a single broker works for a traditional firm like, say, ABC Realty. And so this broker, she wants the tax advantages and liability protection that come with having your own entity. So she'd go to the Secretary of State. She would set up an LLC or an LLP or a C or S corporation. She would then need to have a firm license. When you get a firm license, you have to establish a BIC, except for this situation. It gives her a way to not have to establish a broker in charge or make herself the BIC. She doesn't need to be a BIC. She doesn't need a BIC for this kind of little firm because it's just her. It's just for the purposes of her getting paid into her entity name and having the liability protection and the tax advantages. So in the situation, it would be she's staying under her same firm, ABC Realty. In real life, Keller Williams, Allen Tate, Prudential, Century 21. You're staying in your normal firm that you've always been. You're not trying to go out on your own and start another firm. So you're staying within the firm. You are doing it for the tax benefits and liability protection only. It's the only reason you're establishing your own firm. And you are not planning to have a separate office. You're not going to go work out of somewhere else. You're going to stay here under the same roof of ABC Realty where you have been. And then finally, you're not going to have brokers under you. This will not work if your plan is to have brokers under your little firm. You'd have to go ahead and assign yourself as BIC if you're going to have brokers under you. But if you're not, you just think of a single agent wanting the tax benefits, wanting the liability protection. Gives them a way to have an entity set up. If you set up an entity, you have to have a firm license. But if you have a firm license, this is the one exception where you don't need a BIC, right? It's all because you established an entity. And by establishing the entity, the Real Estate Commission requires you have a firm license because you're getting paid in the name of the entity. And anyone who does real estate for another for compensation has to have a license. It's even the entity. So you're getting your firm license as the commission requires, but instead of having to assign a broker in charge, whether you or anyone else, it gives you a way to avoid that part because of these reasons. You're basically having the benefits of an entity, but while not having to run a firm and do the admin, because you're staying within the same firm, ABC Realty, you've got that broker in charge. You don't need to be one. Because there's nobody under you, you need to be in charge of. Does that help? Let me know in the chat if it doesn't, and I'll try to do a little better of explaining it, but hopefully that makes a little more sense. It's these four things that apply here to this thing. If all of these four things are true, then you can have a firm without establishing a BIC for that firm.